Hey guys, this is Mr. Grice for Algebra 1, Unit 1.2 Notes, Part 1. Today we're talking about solving one-step linear equations. Now, as you can tell, I've already got some of the definitions written down, but please try and follow along. Now, our goal today is to be able to solve one-step linear equations by using inverse operations. Now, inverse operation, what that is an operation that cancels another operation. Okay? A lot of the time you're going to hear Ms. Carranza and I say opposites or to cancel. Okay, so some of the things, examples of that, well, we have addition. Okay, what's the opposite of addition? That would be subtraction. Okay, same thing with multiplication. What is the inverse of multiplication? Well, duh, Mr. Grice, that's division. Okay, and now there's actually one more. The opposite of exponents. You might need to look on your calculator for that one, but the opposite of exponents are actually roots. Now there's not going to be a ton of those, but you will see those from time to time. Okay? Now, the next thing to know is what solve means. Solving is to use inverse operations to find the solution of an equation. Okay? A lot of times you're going to have to solve for a variable. Be like, what is x? And you're going to have to go through and figure that out yourself. And you do that by using inverse operations. Okay? Now, inverse operations, what those are is, you might have just seen me erase it, but normal order of operations are PEMDAs. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. When you're solving, we do opposite. So it's SADMAP, okay? That's kind of written all ghetto, so I'm going to write it all nice. Everything in reverse, okay? But left to right and all of that, okay? So what we're going to do first is we're going to identify the operation demonstrated in the equation and then talk about what its inverse is, okay? So one of the things that I always like to do is I like to draw a line down the middle so I can see the two different sides of the equation, okay? There's my variable. What operation is on the same side as the variable? Addition. Okay. So how would I get rid of the addition? How would I get rid of that 8? Well, I would do the inverse of that, which is to subtract. Okay, we don't have to solve. Now we're just trying to figure things out. All right, so there's my variable. What operation do you see that's next to it? Well, the operation that I see is subtraction. What is the inverse, the opposite of subtraction? Addition. Okay, let's draw our line. Where's the variable? What's going on to the variable? Well, remember that that bar right there, that means divide. So what operation is going on? Division. Okay, and what's the opposite of division? Multiplication. Draw our line. There's my variable. When there's a coefficient in front of a variable, what's going on is multiplication. And the inverse, or the opposite of multiplication, is division. And number 5. 5. There's my exponent, my variable. Now, what's going on? Well, we are multiplying by a fraction. Okay, now this is the only one where we're actually going to be doing something different. Okay, now let's draw a quick example real quick. Say we've got the problem 2/3 divided by 1/2. We're dividing by a fraction, but we talked about something that when you see division in a fraction that we actually have to flip. And the problem changes to multiplication. But what did we multiply by? You multiplied by the reciprocal. Okay, so this one is the only difference where we multiply by the reciprocal. Okay, we need to pay attention to this example. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do for the rest of these is we're going to solve the following equations, and they want to know the exact simplified answer, no decimals, reduce the fractions, and it's telling us specifically for 12 and through 14 is to round to the nearest hundredth, which is the second decimal. Okay, we have to pay attention to that. Whoa. No clue what's going on there. All right. Now, what operation do you see? Oh, I see two. I see a subtraction and I see a plus sign. So what we're going to do is we're going to write this in standard form. So all I'm going to do is rewrite it. Now it's kind of clear what operation we have. I see subtraction, and to get rid of subtraction, I do the inverse, which is add. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. -7 plus 7 cancels out, and we get the x all by itself, which is what we want. And -6 plus 7 gives us +1. Okay? Now, you can do all of these without a calculator. However, if you would like to use one, go ahead. All right. So in between here, we have multiplication. And to get rid of multiplication, we divide. So I have to divide both sides by -8. I cross that out, and I get that x equals, well, I have -4/8. So what's 4/8? Can I reduce that? The answer is yes. You can divide both of those by 4, and we get 1/2. The negative sign stays, so we get x equals -1/2. All right, I'm going to draw my line. There's my variable right there. So I want to get it by itself. And we have division. So the opposite of division is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides. Those cancel. 4 times 10 is 40. So 40 equals W. Okay, number 9. Draw my line. I'm going to circle my variable so I see where it's at. And now I need to multiply by what? Remember, how do I get rid of a fraction? I need to multiply by the inverse. Okay? So on both sides, you multiply by the inverse. Okay? And now, 8 and 2, those can simplify. And when you multiply across, you get negative 12 over 1. And so we get y equals negative 12. You might be like, Mr. Grice, why do we multiply by the inverse? Okay, so we had, let me look back at it. We had negative 2/3. So negative 2 over 3 times negative 3 over 2. Well, if you look at our kitty corners, those both reduce. Those both reduce, so we have negative 1 over 1 times negative 1 over 1, which is positive 1 over 1, which is 1. Everything cancels out. That's what we want, okay? So that's why we do that. All right, number 10. We're going to draw a line. And what operation do we have? Because remember, we want to get that variable by itself, so we do the opposite. Okay, off to the side. If you have trouble with that, you can do it by hand. Subtract the two numbers, and we get 2.3. So m equals 2.3. Okay. There's my variable right there. We need to get it by itself. So we're going to do the inverse operation. So I'm going to subtract 1/3. So over here, I'm going to write it a little bit differently so it looks nicer. I'm going to subtract the 1/3. They're already the same, so we get 6 over 3. And can we reduce 6 over 3? I think we can. And you get a final answer of n equals 2. Okay, now these next couple ones, you might want to get a calculator out. You can do these by hand. You can. But a calculator is going to help you out. So right here, there's my variable. There's my n. I want to get the n all by itself, and it's being divided by the 4.2. So to get rid of division, we need to multiply by 4.2, so those cancel out, and multiply by 4.2. So I'm going to take my calculator out. All right, let's get it going. Come on, you can do it. So I've got 4.2 times 8.01. And I get 33.642. So that they want me to round to the hundredths place, which is the 4. So I need to look at my next number. Since it's 2, I can't round it up, so it stays the same. So when we round, we use our little squiggly lines to show that. So we get 33.64. Okay, let's draw our line. There's my variable. I want to get it all by itself. So I needed to do the inverse. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. So I get that m equals, and guys, if you want to use your calculator, by all means use your calculator. Okay, I have negative 11.986, and I am adding 3.745. I get negative 8.241. And once again, we need to look at that decimal and round. Since it's a 1, I don't go up. I stay the same. All right, 14, last one. There's my variable. I want to get it all by itself. Right now it's being multiplied, so the opposite of multiplication is division. I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 12.7, and we get that x equals, and so I'm going to do negative 43.9 divided by negative 12.7. And you go, whoa, look at that big old number. Okay. Now, I'm just going to write the first 3 decimals, which is 456. Because those are the only ones that I need to round. Okay. I look at the next number, it's a 6. If it's a 6, I have to round up. So my 5 changes to a 6. And that's my final answer. Okay. Now your homework is the back side of the notes, or if you go to the website, it's going to be 1.2 practice, the 1.2 practice. Okay. If you have any other questions on this or any other problems with math, please come see Ms. Carranza or myself. Otherwise, that's it for Algebra 1, Unit 1.2, Notes, Part 1. Thanks for watching.